Today in Conversations That Convert, we'll be talking to an up-and-coming construction management software company and learning about their unique angle as it relates to more builder-client communication. Let's get started.
Welcome to Conversations That Convert. Every week, we'll spend about 10 to 15 minutes tackling relevant lead generation, marketing, and sales topics for remodelers, home improvement companies, and home builders. Conversations That Convert is brought to you by Builder Lead Converter, your perfect sales assistant. And now, here's Rick and Diana.
Hey, welcome to Conversations That Convert, everyone. Diana is off today. However, we do have very special guests, Mark Thompson and Dickerson from BuilderPad. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us on Conversations That Convert.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to have you here. So to catch everyone up, again, this is right after the International Builders Show 2024. You guys were at the show in the up-and-comers type of section, so you're a newer company, but I know you've got kind of a unique story on how you view project management software and felt there was a gap in the market, and you're trying to fill it. So why don't you give us a little background, Mark and Hill, and tell us why you're here talking to me today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually in the software world. So I've been in SaaS and software for 15 years, and Hill came from the construction world. And so I've always felt that the best products come from personal experiences. And so I was actually in the process of building a lake house, and my project manager at the time, he did a poor job of communication. Just really never knew what was going on with the schedule. We went almost 40% over budget. He sent me a massive binder full of just invoices at the very end. It's like, here you go. And I was like, man, there must be a better way to do this. And so, it kind of went down that journey of exploring what construction management software was available. And I found that it was very archaic. And I was like, well, I think we can do a little bit better and figure out a way to really bridge the gap between the builder and the client relationship and really make it not just make it an outstanding experience for everybody. And so, at the time, my business was in the process of being acquired, and so was Hill's. And so we actually found that it was kind of good timing to be able to partner up, because he had, and Hill can kind of share his backstory, but he had the construction experience and access to hundreds of builders in our area. And so we really just kind of dove in head first and really started to see what made builders tick and make sure that they were having the same types of issues and challenges that my project manager was running into, as well as me from the client side. And so that's kind of how we got started. But Hill, maybe if you want to kind of talk about what, how we teamed up.
Yeah, that story started 2.5, almost 3 years ago. We've been working on BuilderPad. I met Mark, we're friends first. And then, but yeah, when he decided to build the lake house, I remember when he told me, and I said, I kind of told him to get ready, because I lived in that world. I've been in construction my entire life. I grew up in it. I owned a distribution company from 2004. We were actually acquired, like Mark said, in 2022, but we worked with the pretty much all North Carolina builders, central greater triangle area. So we had about close to 500 builders that we worked for with what we did. And I knew the day-to-day struggles, because we did so many, we did a lot of small transactions. So we were doing 20 to 30 transactional jobs a day. Crews everywhere, hiccups, delays, over budget, this, that. But we also had a showroom. So my client was my builder. That was my customer, but they would send their homeowners into my showroom to pick out their products. And so I got to hear it from both sides of the table pretty much all day, every day, whether it was me or my sales team, but you could hear it, the warranty grumbles, the budget grumbles. So I knew what Mark was getting into building this house. And he is a great software builder. He's always built great products. And when he brought the idea to BuilderPad to me, I was using other construction management softwares. I mean, I'm familiar with all the players in the game, and we were able to log in and kind of find gaps and actually go out and visit 20 or 25 of my customers that use those products and say, hey, where is it not working? Where are the bottlenecks on this software? What could we do if we were to build a software? And that's what we did. We listened to the builders, we listened to the clients, and we're trying to kind of bring the two together and close that gap. And you got to have the necessary tools within construction management software, scheduling and selections management, file storage. That's all kind of necessary evils. What we're trying to do is make the experience better, the intuitiveness of the software via, you know, a mobile app, things like that. So that's what we're working on. We're trying to change it up in that way.
I did a program at the Builders Show years ago with a gal by the name of Beverly Cohen. And she did a lot of like coaching and things for builders, but it was called kind of like how to create a raving fan customer experience. And we talked about the importance of the experience and really trying to not have noticed an organically a good experience, but planning for a raving fan experience and what that looks like. And as a follow-up to that, so this year, two of the programs we presented, we really focused on high quality leads. Where do the best, highest converting, most profitable leads come from? And it's always repeat and referral business. Mm-hmm. So how do you get repeat and referral business? Oh, so they have a great raving fan experience. Well, how do you do that? Well, you have to have an organized process and great client communication during that process. That's something you guys picked up on. And I know from a lot of issues that builders have dealt with as of recent, especially because of COVID, purchasing's been a real problem as far as delays. We have a lot of labor issues, which is causing delays, which of course, all those delays can cause cost overruns, not only for the builder, where it eats that profit, but the builders sometimes have to come back to the client and say, oh, sorry, we estimated it was this much for this product, but because it took 3 months to get it, and now the price has gone up to here. How do you guys handle that when it gets into client communication and dealing with, kind of keeping that customer happy and apprised of what's going on?
Well, go
ahead, Hill.
Well, I was going to say, part of when you kind of struck a nerve when you said the delays, we had the same thing. We were ordering products for houses, and we ended up holding those products for months and months because the houses were having other delays that led to us. We dealt with that COVID delay thing for years. It was horrible. And the financial burden it put on us to have that much inventory sitting in our warehouse waiting to go in that was not paid for. That wasn't just me. That was the entire industry.
Yep.
What we did different and how we created that, it was systematic, but it was organic lead generation, was the communication piece. We were known as a company of transparent communication. I mean, I had it on the wall in the main room of the office and we would just talk about it continuously. Bad news is better than no news at all. Communicate. Don't be afraid of these people. They're going to be mad when they hear bad news. Nobody's happy to get bad news. We're trying to teach a little bit here that if after all the bad news is done and the job's done, the one thing they can't say is, well, he never told me, or he communicated well. He did a really good job. I had a friend who built a $5 million house in downtown Raleigh, and I asked him, how was the process? He said it sucked. How was the budget? Went way over. How was the schedule? He said it took 6 months longer. And I said, well, would you use that builder again? He said, hell yeah. I said, why? He said, dude, he talked to me every day. He kept me in the loop all day long. And I thought that was amazing. I'm like, man, he basically had a 50% experience, but he would hire him again to do it again because he knows he's not going to hide behind a wall somewhere. So,
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I was going to add. So, this is more of a digitally savvy generation. So the way that you communicate with everybody, whether it's internally with your team or with your customers, people are more they're comfortable with social media. They're comfortable with in-app messaging. So it's a lot different than phone calls, text messages, voicemails, and that was one of the problems that I had, is everything was scattered all over the place. And I'm like, man, I know we had that conversation, but I can't figure out where it is. Or he'll send me a picture message of an invoice, and I'm like, man, there must be a better way. So our activity feed is really the backbone of our products. And so, I mean, we're a communication tool first. And so it's very similar to kind of that single source of truth, which is almost like a Facebook news feed. So everyone's familiar with Facebook, and it's a custom tailored experience. And you can have conversations, you can have threads, you can mention people, you can like, tag, share, all that kind of fun stuff that most people are comfortable with now, or at least going to be for years to come. And so now whenever there's a conversation, it's all logged and stored inside of one single source of truth, where everything is. And it keeps everybody in sync. And instead of project managers having to be, reactionary, they can be proactive and get ahead of it And so it's a way to communicate, as well as to incorporate all the job site documentation. All of your daily updates could also be fed in here, and everything is searchable. Everything is transparent and easily found inside of our feed.
How do you find that most home building and remodeling clients, so the builders clients, how do you find that? Is there a preference on how most like to communicate? In other words, I just hired a director of client success, and she made a really good point. She goes, we need to talk to all of our clients and really find out, how do you prefer to communicate? Because my default is, oh, we should just have a Zoom meeting with everybody. It's like, well, maybe some of them don't want to do a Zoom meeting. Maybe they prefer a phone call. Maybe they want an email. Maybe they want a text. But what do you guys see from clients as how they're interacting more with the app?
It's definitely a mobile first approach. I think, especially clients and the younger generation, which are really becoming the largest buyers of homes now, they almost just assume that you have some sort of technology that has incorporates mobile, right? Everyone has their phone right close by to them, and so if you don't have that, then you're at a significant disadvantage. If you have your project manager writing hand Gantt charts, or you have a whiteboard in the office of the schedule, how are you able to effectively communicate that with the client? And so I think customers nowadays are more comfortable with in-app messaging tools, like they use Slack or Skype, Facebook Messenger, that type of communication. And I don't know about you, but I don't answer the phone if it's a phone number that I don't know, right? And so, I mean, not to say that phone calls are ever going to go away, or emails or anytime soon, but I think there's definitely a shift in the way that people are communicating, and having that kind of in-app messaging and having it at your fingertips, a really easy mobile app that is intuitive and easy to use, can go a long way, and it really can reduce all the back and forth of emails and he said, she said.
You guys are doing a lot with imagery too, like photos and things too. Tell us a little bit about that.
So our activity feed has we're able to post photo, video in the activity feed. So like Mark said, I mean, communication is changing. Now you can, instead of getting on the phone and explaining everything, you can just post a post and have all the pictures you want, or you could do a video walkthrough. You can open up and it's an in-app video camera. You're not using a phone's camera, but it's in-app. Walk through a house, be talking over it, doing a little voiceover, and then hit send, and it gives the client, they hear your voice. Maybe they don't want to have a whole conversation, and then the voice messaging feature, we think that's going to take off. I've had a lot of builders started. I mean, toward the end there, before I sold my company, I know they're doing voice to text. They started doing voice messaging, like texting me voice messages. So we went ahead and added that to the app as well. That way, if you just want to do a verbal update, you can just say, hey guys, I'm at the job site. Looks like all the windows are in today. The roof's going on. Hope you have a nice day. Done. And move to the next project. So we're hoping to create some efficiencies there. So
it's almost like a Facebook Live.
Yeah, it can be.
It's really a tool to help build better rapport with your client, right? I mean, obviously, you could do photos. That's great. I think taking it to the next level is using, video or even audio messages, just so they can hear your voice, and you can build a much better relationship with that customer than over a text message or an email.
You look at the popularity of what Instagram did with Reels, and then YouTube adopted it, and Facebook has kind of adopted it as well. And obviously there's TikTok out there, but you can get so much more accomplished in a 1-minute video than trying to take a picture and explain what's going on by just doing the voiceover and here's what's going on. And I mean, I know for me personally, I would love that. And here's something that's interesting too, from a sales perspective. When you're communicating online, there's 3 types of communication. So there's the spoken word, there's tone of voice, and there's body language. Okay, so if I'm just writing something out, that's the reason that a lot of emails and text messages, obviously, that people get upset at them, because they misinterpret what you're trying to say, because there's only the spoken word. So I used to teach this formula that if you're going to speak to someone and you're selling, that the spoken word or written word is only about 7% of your communication. The rest is between body language and tone of voice. And if you think about it, how you say something can mean completely different meanings, for the same exact word. So how powerful that is a tool, where as a builder, you can go through and you can give someone a narrative, and you can use, whether you're doing on camera thing where you're showing somebody, or you're actually just using your tone of voice to explain what's happening. So I think that's really super powerful for the builder to be able to get a whole lot into that message in a very short period of time. And how cool it is. So you just open up your app, take the video, and then push a button, whatever, and it goes into that client's feed, and they get the update.
Yeah, and you can tag whoever you'd like. And it's happening across other industries. So I mean, in the automotive industry, my car was in the shop, and I thought it was so cool that the mechanic just took out his phone and did a quick little walkthrough of the car, and he's like, "Hey, your brakes look good, your tires look good," and did a whole walkthrough, posted it, and I got an alert. I clicked it and saw a really nice walkthrough. And how much nicer of an experience is that than just looking at a report on a piece of paper?
And I had our car in the shop. We got the same video. And for me, I'm one of those paranoid guys. Like, did they really take a look at the car?
Right.
It gives you so much peace of mind because they actually took the wheels off, took the brake off. There, you can see my parts laying on a bench over there. They're actually looking at it and doing the work. So when you get that bill for 3.5 hours worth of work and it's $180 an hour, I'm like, well, I mean, they earned it. You pay it versus just going to pick it up and it's 3.5 hours. And you're like, you didn't do that stuff. So I think it's going to roll downhill to the point when you're sending invoices for work completed, you're billing your client and they're going to look at the bill. It's going to be hard for them to question that bill when it's $65,000, $70,000 or whatever it is. They've got all these videos and all these updates. They're like, well, he was working this whole entire time. So I think it's going to help builders a lot.
And it really is a sales tool as well. I mean, if you're a client and you're talking to a friend and you're like, oh my God, they just built me this amazing house. Look at some of the updates. So they can pull out the mobile app and say, look at what my project manager was doing. And, so you can use it as a sales tool.
Sure. That's goes to believability, right? The video is like, if I see it, I believe it. If I don't see it, I question it.
Correct.
Yep.
What it comes down to. When we were, I was working as a GM for one of our custom builders. One of the things I noticed is that every time we would get to closing, we had done the walkthrough on the home maybe a week before. If we were doing our job, we did it a week before. And then we had created the punch list, come to closing and say, this is all done. Well, we could have that list and we could say, this is all done. And I noticed this looking at the body language of the clients, they were like, are you sure it's done? Is it really done? And so I said, you know what we need to do? We need to let's do a meeting with the project manager at the home the morning of closing. So they're coming from the home, seeing that everything is done. Then they go to closing, and that completely changed the demeanor of everyone because then they believed it because they saw it. But I'm thinking now, I'm like, why would I do that? I could just shoot a video of going through the punch list items and say, hey, this is all done. Fire it off to the client. They see the video before closing. Oh, great. Wonderful.
The client's fear is they're like, once we hand him this check,
that's right,
he's gone.
We'll
they see us they see the contractor on the evening news. They're going, man, I'm scared to death to pay this guy because I want him. That's the fear that we want to get rid of with the transparency.
And a little tip to everyone mentioning, the other thing that we did because of that fear is when we did the walkthrough, we scheduled a 30-day performance review, 30 days after closing, put it on the calendar right then. So they knew we already were scheduled to come back, and that alleviated a lot of calls. That's completely a side note.
You're one of the good guys, trust me.
We're one of the good guys, yeah. But it completely alleviated that fear of you're not going to come back. But the other thing we found too is that from a warranty standpoint is like if they didn't think we were coming back, we would have like 5 warranty requests within 2 days of moving in because they would notice everything that we missed at the punch list. If we said, hey, we're going to come back in 30 days, send us a list before that, and then we'll go through and take care of those things. We heard from them once,
That's getting ahead of it, like Mark was just talking about, getting ahead of what, it's going to happen. So go ahead and get ahead of it. And that's just being proactive. And ask Mark about his punch list on his lake house. I think it's been 3 years.
I think I still have some things on that list. But
you still got a few pieces of blue tape on the wall?
yeah. After a couple of years now.
The other day, it's 7 years old. So, they never go away. So give us a little bit more perspective too. So you guys are looking, you said you wanted to fill a gap in this industry. So what are some other things that you developed in BuilderPad that you felt were missing from other software platforms out there that might be available?
Well, when we talked about communication, I think the question, that was what it started off as, communication, and it was mostly the schedule. That was our first initial thought. But then we thought, well, what else do people talk about during a construction process? And we said, okay, selections process. So we built a full selections portal that, with the client in mind, with a dashboard that kind of keeps them in check as the project goes along. The builder can set it all up prior to inviting the client, all the budgets, the allowances, all those things. And then once the client is invited to the job, they see, okay, we've got X amount of dollars to spend. Here's how many things you have approved so far. Here's how many more items, you need to approve. They can kind of start planning ahead a little bit and to keep the schedule, or the budget in line, with what the builder said originally. And then documents, just being on site, needing answers to questions, whether you're on a job site or whether the client's in the showroom. We wanted to make sure we had all of the documentation job site for that job, whether it's plans, quotes, spec sheets, things like that. So if a client's in my showroom to pick out a product, they can open up our app and go, okay, I've got a $10,000 allowance for these products. They can expand that and go, here's the items the builder suggested I could use. They can look at those items and approve them on site. For the project manager, it's having all that documentation. Once it goes live and it's approved, the project manager's in the field and needs rough openings for windows or for things that the client picked out. He has the same documentation. So everybody's kind of talking together through the mobile app.
Yeah, and the fact that it's a native mobile app allows for push notifications, which really helps just to keep everybody again in sync, and also the client on track, right? Because you don't want the client to delay approving a selection that's needed, and now you're waiting for materials. So, kind of what Hill was talking about with our selection management feature is the ability to allow the client to log in and say, okay, hey, these are the items that are needed now, or here are the items that are coming soon. Get prepared and make sure you know what you want, and then having those timestamps to say, okay, hey, well, you approved it on this day, or your husband approved it, so you can kind of minimize liability and disputes.
And a big issue is change orders, right? It's always change orders are always an issue, and the program we just did with one of my clients, he said that he does a lot of high-end stuff, and he said typically 3 to 5% of the job is going to be change orders is what he ends up with. Now, he really focuses hard on getting everything done before the contract. And he has a process put together there. And when I was a GM for another custom builder, we did the same thing. We did all of our selections, everything before the contract. So it took longer up front, but it did alleviate those change orders down the road. However, we're custom builders or design build remodelers, is going to be change orders. So how do you handle that change orders between the client communication and documenting all that? What's your philosophy at BuilderPad?
Yeah, so we just rolled out the selection management feature, kind of the first phase of it. The second phase, we're looking to be a little more intricate and kind of handle change orders. So right now, what you're able to do is you're able to manage the allowance or budgets for each of the different parts of building a home. And then in real time, the customer or the client's able to go in and see, okay, well, here's the total budget. Here's how much has been approved. Here's how much is kind of pending. And then it just, so it's in real time, right? And so kind of the issue that I had when I was building my house is that I got a stack of invoices at the very end in this massive binder. And I never really knew where we were in real time throughout the construction process. And so I was just like, well, I don't know. We could be 50% under budget. We could be 50% over budget. I have no idea. I'm just picking stuff out. And so now in real time, it's like, oh, okay, well, you want this. Well, hey, you were allotted this amount for electrical or for appliances. It's going to move you up over that amount, and they're able to see it in real time. So one thing we are looking to address is we're going to be improving the dashboard so you can kind of see projections of like, okay, well, if you keep going down this path, we're probably going to be about 30% over budget. And that kind of speaks to the change orders and things that kind of change on the fly throughout the process.
I've got kind of an idea of how a change order process, we're still in development, obviously. But I want to create a way to put a little bit of it on the client, because they're the ones that are kind of pumping the brakes on the job when a change order is created. Again, we want it to be a good client experience. We don't want it to frown on the builder, but it's almost like a submittal of some sort. Once they've approved a selection and it's stamped and marked, I want to create a good workflow that if they want to uncheck that box and change this decision, they have to give the builder some qualifying information, why the change, what is the change? Have you priced this out? Where did you price it? That my plan in my head, sorry, Mark, but it would be for all that information to get delivered to the builder, and the builder can review it and go, okay, like if you're changing your oven and the oven has already been installed in the kitchen, it's too late, you know. And you can have that reasoning on there, or if you're going to allow the change, the builder can respond and say, we can do that, but there's some restocking fees involved. You're going to add 4 weeks to your timeline. Here's the price to that, because it's not just the cost of the materials, the cost of project management, all the things that are attached to that, moving all these schedules out, and then give the client a number, because it's all about a number. I don't care who you are or what you're building. It's all about that number that people are scared to share. It's $50,000 to make this change. Okay. Do I want to do it or not? And just have, but then all that conversation would stay in BuilderPad in the activity feed, so that at the end of the project and you're staring at a 40% over budget, you kind of know who did it, and you know why it took so long, because you've got all these changes documented along the ways. We don't have that developed yet, but when we do, it's going to beat everybody else's out. That's what we want it to be perfect, you know. So that's why we're taking some time doing it.
And part of it is just setting expectations at the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
So when you do get to that point, it's like, well, you know, we had this discussion on day one that this is what happens, right? If there's, you know, if you change your mind on certain things, well, you know, that's going to impact the schedule, or it's going to impact the, you know, your budget.
Right now, because our activity feed is very easy to use, a change could be discussed in the activity feed today. I mean, they could upload, they could be at a showroom somewhere. Let's say everybody goes to Ferguson to buy their appliances and their light fixtures, you know, so they walk in there like, oh, wow, I like that. The client can take a picture right on the spot in BuilderPad and post it. And I mention the builder and say, hey, man, I really want this light fixture. It's $5,000. Builder can say, no problem. Add it to the allowances page. Check it off. I mean, that can be done today. But I know what you're asking, Rick, is that systematic change order when you're actually having to, you know, make it happen.
Well, I love your thoughts on that, Hill, on, you know, what you're envisioning this would look like, because yeah, you're absolutely right. Technically, I could change something, you know, right up until the day before completion or closing, right? It's just a matter of, okay, what ultimately does it affect down the road for the schedule, and how much are you going to pay to make that change? But it's a struggle for every builder, and because really change orders should be a profit center, but I think more often than not, change orders become really a drain on profit for a lot of builders, because they're just mismanaged. The builders may be afraid to say no. The builders are afraid to charge what they should be charging.
So I can give you, I was in the fireplace business. I'll just tell you what I did. Builder builds a house. They frame for a traditional fireplace. It's 4 feet by 4 foot. It's got gas logs in it and all that good stuff. Buyer decides they see this 6 foot long linear modern fireplace and they want it. So the fireplace is $5,000 more to buy the linear one. That's step one. Step two, they got to bring the framer back who's been finished for weeks. You got to get him back over there, reframe it, replumb a gas line, redo an electrical line. All these people, that could take weeks and weeks of time. And if you're building a house with any kind of bank loan, I mean, I know a lot of people pay cash for their houses, I guess, these days, but not me. I'm going to be probably using a bank loan, and it's 8% bank. You know, you add all that up, and the builder has to do all that work to make all those things happen. And you're right, they don't want to do it because they're just thinking, oh my God, I just got all this stuff done. I got to redo it all. And then they want to be good by the client. They're scared to charge them. They feel like I need to do this guy a favor. He's a nice guy. I'm just gonna let him pay I'm like, why would you do that? Put a profit margin on it. Yeah, it's not free labor. So educating builders about that, I'm sure you do a lot of that. That's I like to talk about builders. Why are you not making money on these changes?
Yeah, and I think that's where if you look at where profit leaks, change orders a lot of times are there. It's almost like you can't quite charge enough, and getting the client to understand that is also that's an art as well. But the bottom line is, it is something we have to deal with in this industry because clients change their mind, right? So we have to be prepared for it. And I think the more expectations we can set up front, the better we can communicate what that is, charging realistic amounts, and also letting it be a profit center for you. Is like, hey, my margins are going up because I'm doing changes, not down. But obviously, there's a lot of moving parts there too.
Yep.
So I want to wrap this up. I want to ask each of you guys the same question. But if there's a builder listening to this podcast here, and they're thinking, you know what, I really either A, need to buy some construction management software, or B, I'm not really happy with my current construction management software, I'm thinking about switching. What are some, from an inside perspective, what are some things that builders should really strongly be considering when they are either purchasing software for the first time or making a change?
Yeah, it's a good question. And so I mean, being a software guy, so there's the challenge, right? There's like that double-edged sword. You want to have a tool that does everything under the sun, right? It's like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if you just had, all of your front office, your back office of your construction operation all in one tool and everything worked great. The problem with that is that, to do it from a technical standpoint, it's very difficult, right? I mean, it's one thing to have a feature. It's another thing to make it intuitive and easy to use. And so what I would say is, don't necessarily put all of your eggs in one basket, because what we've talked to hundreds and hundreds of builders, especially during, the IBS show, we're like, so, okay, you're using this tool. What percentage of the feature set are you using? And they're like, maybe 20%, 30%. And I ask, well, why is that? And I'm like, well, some features we just don't need, or it's so difficult or cumbersome to use that we just end up using another tool because it's more intuitive and easier. So we'll use this for our CRM. We'll use this for, our scheduling. And so, at least that when we built BuilderPad, we know who we're going after. We're targeting custom home builders. You're doing under 30 to 50 projects per year. We're also going after the remodelers, right? So you want to have great communication. You want to have a great front end experience between your internal team and your client. And so we haven't really tackled any of the back office, the financial stuff. And we're probably not going to, at least not anytime in the near future, but we want to be able to integrate with those tools like QuickBooks or Adaptive or some of these financial tools, so that there is that seamless integration. So, can you build it or do you just buy it or / integrate with it? And so I would say, like, what's important to you and in your business, and make sure that you're not just overpaying for software on features that you either are not going to use or are just so cumbersome to use that you're like, you know what, I'm going to go out and buy a third-party solution just because it's that much easier to use.
Hill?
Yeah, we're going to stay on our lane with this. We're going to really focus on that front office experience and client experience. We really want to give builders those front office tools that are client facing and be the best at that. To echo what he said, we're not gonna go feature happy on this app. I also think we want to partner with. I think builders would want to partner with us because we make a good team. Mark and I, between my construction experience and Mark's software experience, we're really coming together with something special here, and we're listening to our clients. So we're trying to build relationships with builders where they can contact me directly, and I kind of understand their problems. I feel that I do anyway, and we can talk through these things and find a solution. So that kind of gives us an edge, I think, on some of our competitors out there, is that I'm readily available, and I've been in it my whole life. I mean, I've seen it all. I feel like I've seen it all. So that's kind of an insider's look at what we're trying to do, I guess.
So if a builder is interested in learning more about you guys, what should they do?
Probably go to builderpad.com and just download a free trial. We don't ask for any credit card information. Just you can go right in there and put your name and some information in there, and you got 14 days to explore the platform. From there, you can use our chat widget to chat with us directly. And also anybody, if they have any questions, can email me directly, Hill, Hill at builderpad.com. Real easy. There's a contact us page. There's numerous ways to figure out how to get in touch with us. So we're pretty transparent with that. And I'll talk to people directly anytime they want to schedule a call.
Yeah, and I think if people can schedule a demo, I think
absolutely. Schedule demos.
I'd look at it.
We also have some webinars. There's one on the website you can watch to get pretty much an overview of the software. And if they want to get a more in-depth view, they can reach out to me and I can accommodate that as well.
And we'll put the link for builderpad.com right below this. If you're watching this on video, you'll find it right below in the description for that as well. But great learning more about the company. It's exciting. You guys I love your unique perspective on really focusing on that client communication, because obviously there is a huge need for that in this industry. So thanks guys so much for joining us here today. And we thank you for listening as well. So for my brothers and sisters in Christ, may the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all always. We'll see you next time on Conversation.